How about some lower humidity on the way? I'm Anthony. Welcome to another episode of All Things Weather with Anthony and Brodie. There's a cold front that is currently in North Mississippi as we're recording this, and it is flying by and it is speeding quickly overhead us, and it's trying to kick up some showers and storms, but what you're noticing here off to the west is some Saharan air. If you looked outside today, you probably noticed it, and it is kind of milky white, and that will limit overall storm coverage for your Friday evening. So I think this Friday evening is going to be great, welcoming in the back to school kind of vibes, and overall I think it's going to be a nice start to the weekend. We're going to be in the mid-90s tomorrow afternoon, so a little bit lower than the past couple of days, and there's going to be lower humidity too. Not too much different from what we've been seeing over the past couple of days, but we're not going to be in that excessive criteria. We'll be in the lower 90s just before noon, the noon time, and then as we carry on through the evening, temperatures are going to be in the mid-90s, so we're not getting too much of a break from this heat. The humidity is going to be a little bit lower, yes, but we're still in that pretty humid criteria with dew points between 70 and 77. Now, earlier this week, we were in the upper 70s for dew points, so this is, I guess, a little bit of a change, a little bit of a change. So we do have excessive heat warnings out towards Grenada County and even some of our local counties at Choctaw County here, but those will expire this evening. And this weekend, we'll see humidity levels a little bit lower, so we'll only feel like the lower 100s, which isn't quite that excessive heat criteria. Now, there's going to be early morning storms possible for your Saturday, but we'll get rid of those. It's going to be a beautiful weekend for grilling with temperatures both days in the mid-90s and some haze still on Saturday, but I think it's going to set up for overall a nice weekend here in North Mississippi. Now, we've gotten some rain, and that's good for the last 30 days. We've gotten about normal to a little bit above normal, mostly across the area. But there's no real mention of rain on my 7-day forecast, so I do think drought could get potentially worse as we head into next week and the extended forecast. And the heat is not really going to help at all with the relief of the drought. In fact, it will probably exacerbate it. Risk of excessive heat is pretty much for our area for the next about week or so. So we're going to continue to watch elevated temperatures. So this weekend is going to be less humid, but still humid. Again, rain stays out of the 7-day. So that's, again, not getting relief from the heat at all as it builds back. Very minimal impacts from a tropical system that you may have heard of. Brodie will talk about that in a second. Before we get to him, I want to show you my 6-day updated forecast for the weekend. It's looking pretty nice with lower humidity that should allow temperatures to get into the lower 70s, which is only about normal for this time of year. Then, whoa, the heat builds, lower triple digits, not the heat index, actual thermometer read temperatures for Tuesday and Wednesday. Brodie, I hear there's a tropical system coming in for the Florida, Cuba area. What's exactly going on there?
The tropics are definitely heating up. We did enjoy our 2 to 3 week quiet time with that Saharan dust over a good portion of the Atlantic and Gulf Coast, but things are starting to heat up as we go into August, and this is expected. As we start the month of August and eventually go into the rest of the month, this is going to be quite busy. We do have one area's potential tropical cyclone number 4. We've been talking about this for almost 2 weeks now, with an area out in the Atlantic that's continuing to move off and starting to get a little better, system is starting to develop to some degree. The reason why it's a potential tropical cyclone is because they needed to go ahead and issue tropical storm warnings and watches for the Florida coastline so people can go ahead and start being prepared. As you can see, that if you call center of the circulation is near central to southern Cuba, and that's going to continue to move off and eventually be in over shore. Then that's when it's really going to be able to define its system, get a good center circulation. It's going to be able to strengthen a whole lot more, because these Gulf waters and Caribbean waters are like, bath water, I'll tell you, out there. And then the latest call from the National Hurricane Center takes it up near landfall just north or near the Tampa Bay area as a tropical storm. But we do want to take a note that low-end Category 1 hurricane is possible. It's not a rolling possibility with the Gulf waters and very little in the way of wind shear. Tropical storm watches and warnings were also issued today. That is why they went ahead and did a potential tropical cyclone, so they could get these watches and warnings out. You see tropical storm watches in around the Tampa Bay area and further inland, just southwest of Orlando. This is in particular for Hillsborough County. And then once you get down to the southern coast, you get tropical storm warnings because they're expected to experience tropical storm conditions sooner than places like Tampa and further inland areas. Now, spaghetti models, you can see a tight clustering in and around the Tampa Bay area. That's where most models take it. But each and every day, we have seen a windshield wiper effect, is what we call. Yesterday, they were more further east toward Panama City, the Florida Panhandle. Today, they've moved back east toward Tampa Bay and places like that. You do see a few stragglers out here. This one takes it near the Alabama, Mississippi Gulf Coast. This one takes it into Houston. Still, all areas of play. If I'd say I was watching from Lafayette to New Orleans to Gulfport, Biloxi, Mobile, Panama City, Destin, Fort Walton, I would be on alert and watching this system, especially if you are living anywhere in the Alabama coastline to the Florida Panhandle, as any little shifts to the west could bring more impacts to Panama City, Destin, places like that. And just be watching Lafayette, New Orleans into Mississippi coastline. Now, flash flooding, this system is going to be a big, heavy rain producer, not just fresh water, but also saltwater flooding. Storm surge 1 to 2 to 3 feet of storm surge is possible along the Florida coastline. This is a level 2 out of 4 for flash flooding from West Palm Beach to Fort Lauderdale to Miami, just south of Bradenton, Florida. Then, as we go into Sunday, that level 2 out of 4 expands and even includes the Savannah, Georgia, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, North Carolina, places like that, and further inland areas like Jacksonville, Florida, Tampa Bay area, and places like that in Central Florida. Now, again, heavy rain is going to be a big threat with this system and with the salt water as well. And we're really worried about the high tide for Sunday, as with this onshore flow really going to bring in some storm surge. And just look at the rainfall totals. This is just freshwater flooding now. You are looking at anywhere from about 5 to even nearing 10 inches at times of rainfall, Cape Coral to Tampa to Orlando, Gainesville, Jacksonville. And again, any little shifts west or east could also change the placement of the heavy rainfall. Stay up to date if you're in Florida doing those. Make sure you're doing those hurricane plans. You're putting those into place. A state of emergency has already been issued for most of the state of Florida from Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis. And then if you're on the Panhandle, watch the system very closely. And then further west, just be on heightened alert.